Greetings, my loyal serfs and noble knights. I am Sigmar's Lorekeeper. Today is a glorious day since we are covering one of, if not my favorite faction in Warhammer Age of Sigmar, Bretonnia. Oh, crap, sorry. It seems the delusion took control for a second there. Who we're actually talking about are the Flesh-Eater Courts, the craziest but most wholesome deformed guys this side of Shaiish. I know this video is a bit late, but school got in the way for me and my girlfriend, and midterms are really kicking our butts right now. But don't worry, we are planning out the next few weeks worth of videos to hopefully not delay again anytime soon. Now, the Flesh-Eater Courts are one of the most unique factions in all of fiction. While at a surface level they may seem very basic and one note, today we will be going over them in depth and learning together what makes them so special. First things first, the basics. The Flesh-Eaters are one of the 4 death factions that were created by and serve Nagash, the god of death. Their origins are somewhat muddled, and there's a lot of speculation to be had compared to most other factions, and while I do plan on making a dedicated video on their Mortarch Usharon, he is tied in a lot to the story of the Flesh-Eaters, so I'll inevitably talk about him a bit. For those of you who have been asking for an Usharon video, don't worry, I won't go into too much detail, I still want to keep him mysterious enough for the future. The origins of the Flesh-Eater Court start in the Age of Myth, although they aren't a dedicated faction yet. Once upon a time, Nagash was less of a dick, and was still buddy-buddies with Sigmar, and even a part of his pantheon of gods. At this time, Nagash brought back a few of his key followers from the world that was, his top lieutenants, the Mortarchs. They are all very powerful vampires, and in the beginning there were 3. Manfred von Karstein, the worst, Neferata, the hottest,
I'll save that for later.
and Usharon, the coolest, most powerful, sexiest, best hair. You get the flow. Usharon is very loyal, quite powerful, and dedicated himself to gathering followers for Nagash. Although inadvertently, quite a few people, mostly other strong vampires, liked him better and dedicated themselves to him. I know, I haven't mentioned any Flesh-Eaters yet, so let's get right to it. One day, no one knows why, Usharon rebelled, killed a lot of people, took a lot of land, but was captured by the other 2 Mortarchs, and Nagash placed him into a very special prison that drove him crazy. Thousands of years later, near the start of the Age of Chaos, Sigmar was really mad at Nagash, probably for a good reason, and broke a lot of his stuff, including the prison. Usharon was now free and skedaddled away. By this time, he was really crazy. So crazy, in fact, his insanity spread to those around him, attracting new and old followers who were scattered around the realms. These followers were having a bit of a rough go of it in the Age of Chaos. Not having access to fresh meat and blood, they had to resort to eating old, rotted corpses. This had a bad effect on their bodies and minds, mutating them and driving them into a state of despair. Usharon's release was just the kick in the butt they needed to get, and his aura of delusion spread to them and allowed them to dissociate from the reality of what they'd become. Now, if you didn't get my 300 IQ joke in the intro, there is something you need to understand about the Flesh-Eater Courts. They are a little whack in the head. While these undead monsters think they look like this, and are fighting for the king's justice and to spread his peace across the realm, they actually look like this, and are munching on anyone that comes too close. This is what is called the Grand Delusion, and boy are they delusional. Almost as delusional as you are, trying to justify the new Flesh-Eater Courts army box you bought when your girlfriend gets mad that she sees you didn't come home with Wendy's, you came home with a bag from the Warhammer store. No, I'm not projecting, I swear, this definitely didn't happen to me. Anyways, the delusion is integral to the identity of the Flesh-Eater Courts. It's what I love most about them, so let's get right into how it works. Let's imagine a hypothetical real quick. You are a traveler, wandering around with a few companions, traveling through Jiran. It's been quite a while since your last meal, and you're starting to lose hope that you will even make it to the end of the week. And you and your buddy start walking, and you start to feel strange. You feel a little uneasy, but your friends are weirdly happy and excited. You see piles of corpses against rocks, half buried in the ground with gore and viscera hung up between the trees. But strangely enough, some of your companions aren't bothered by this. In fact, some of them are referring to these piles as beautiful statues, and the buried corpses in the fields, they're fields of wheat and other crops. Now you're getting a little scared. You don't know if your friends are the crazy ones or if it's you that's starting to break. Suddenly, someone suggests heading up to this beautiful keep right up the hill. But you only see a ruined castle with barely any walls to speak of. And while you're heading up to this ruin, the feeling only gets worse. But then suddenly, you start to feel excited. And you realize this is a beautiful castle. Then the gates open, and music fills your ears. Knights in shimmering armor stride out. They offer you a meal and a place to stay. For some reason, some members of your group try to run away, but it's okay, the guards caught them. But you don't even realize the screams of your friends while you and the others dig into this beautiful feast, which has an odd metallic taste to it. This is a terrifying example of how the delusion preys on the weak. It preys on your despair and your hopelessness, brings you comfort. The specifics of what you see in the delusion are different from court to court and can vary from simply being a humble farmer to a mighty paladin striking down the enemies of your god. And the delusion is quite strong. In some cases, during the necroquake, even spirits could fall under it, like a plague turning ghosts into ravenous, aggressive creatures. Even the undead weren't safe from the grand delusion. That being said, the delusion is not unbreakable. In fact, the death of a ruling abhorrent will break the delusion of those following them. Oftentimes, this leads to mass hysteria as the ghouls realize what they truly are and go crazy, attacking everything in sight, sometimes even taking themselves out in the process. But that being said, the courts skyrocketed in numbers during the Age of Chaos. All the bloodshed and destruction left broken survivors, easy prey for an up-and-coming ghoul king looking to fill his ranks. And soon you forget your worries and give thanks to the generous monarch who saved you. This was a time of major growth for the Flesh Eaters. They spread all around the realms, and sometimes their delusions were modified to fit the mindset of the survivors from that realm. There are countless courts around the mortal realms, but there are 4 major ones that most others swear fealty to. Kind of like the Harry Potter houses now that I think of it. First we have Hollowmourne, Usharon's personal court. Their delusion and activities focus on chivalric values and searching for long-lost artifacts, a remnant of who they once were as errant knights who fell into despair on a quest given by their god king. Then there is Morgon, a court dependent on its loyal serfs, where even the lowliest of subjects fights alongside their lords. This inspires fierce loyalty and perhaps is a glimpse to who they were before the abhorrent scooped them up. Third is Blisterskin, our resident religious extremists. You gotta have at least one. While once they would sacrifice food to fires in hopes of pleasing the sun, nowadays sacrificing living people or even themselves is enough, while winged ghouls soar above. And finally, the Hufflepuff of the bunch, Griselgore. Long ago, they worshipped the beasts of the forest, where even hunting was seen as a necessary evil. Now, in their decrepit state, they ride undead monsters into battle while praying to and worshipping these beasts. There is definitely plenty more to say about each of these courts, but I'm a bit pressed for time. I'm not sure my editor would be too happy if I went on for 10 minutes about each one. Maybe with enough requests, they will get their own short-form video. If you've been paying attention, you may have realized I've said the word abhorrent a few times. This is a classification in the Flesh Eaters hierarchy. To simplify a little bit, the courts have a top-down system. There is a ruling monarch, which is either a ghoul king or sometimes a powerful archregent. On top of this, there is some high nobility like barons and dukes. They are the abhorrents, powerful vampires who have the gifts of the king's blood in their veins. Below them are the courtiers, lesser vampires with a diluted gift given to them by their ruling abhorrents instead of the big man himself. These are the lesser nobility, landholders and commanders of the army. Then there are the knights and serfs, the rank and file. These are your cryptors and ghouls. They are different from other members of Death Faction since they aren't actually dead. You see, they are heavily deformed and mutated from their diet of raw flesh and all the death magic flowing around, but they aren't undead like a zombie or a skeleton. They're more in a state of unlife. This means they're not weakened by life magic like other factions are, but they were still buffed up by the necroquake, putting them in a unique power spot. Even with this power, the different courts tend to keep to themselves. Sometimes a little civil war will break out and the winning side will absorb the loser and swell up their ranks. Sometimes they won't even attack trespassers, instead offering them to let them pass safely and protected, as long as they are given gifts of raw meat. But in the recent days of the Age of Sigmar, the balance is shifting. Now they are flocking out in great numbers, many heading to Garan. Turns out Usharon is back from his self-imposed exile, and he's building up a new summer court. While he's feigning insanity, he seems to be planning something. What exactly? I have a feeling we'll soon find out, and those tasty mortals won't like it one bit. And that is the story of the Flesh Eater courts, although there is definitely more I can say about them, but that will be covered in a video about Usharon. Your support has been very appreciated. I love to sit down and read all the comments and respond to each one. That's something I hope to be able to do for a while. If you're new, make sure to watch our first video on the origins of the Mortal Realms to learn exactly how this setting came to be. Thank you for watching. I am Sigmar's Lorekeeper, and I will see you in the next one.